Our story begins. Dr. Susan was experimenting on a predatory shark. She had attached a special device to the shark's brain, but she had no idea that the slightest sign of danger would cause the shark to wake up. Luckily, the shark was knocked unconscious again. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Susan fitted the device onto its head and, with the help of an imaging system, inserted a nearly 10-meter-long needle deep into its brain. Even though the shark was unconscious, it could still feel intense pain. Eventually, Susan managed to extract 4.5 moles of protein from its brain. That protein was then mixed with damaged brain cells from an Alzheimer's patient. Everyone stared at the screen, waiting for the results. If this experiment succeeded, millions of patients could get a new chance at life, while the research team could make a huge profit. As soon as the protein reacted with the brain cells, the damaged cells began coming back to life. This result proved that their experiment had worked. Celebrating the success, one of the scientists immediately lit a cigarette. But as he casually approached the shark, it suddenly sensed the smell of the cigarette and woke up. In an instant, it attacked him. Right in front of everyone, the shark ripped one of his arms completely off, sending everyone into a panic. The shark had gone completely out of control. To stop it, Carter immediately smashed the glass, grabbed a harpoon gun, and prepared to attack. Meanwhile, Susan was desperate to protect the research results they had worked so hard to obtain. Without wasting any time, she activated the system and released the shark back into the deep ocean. But nobody realized what a huge mistake they had just made. Carter immediately contacted the tower and called the nearby medical team because all of this had happened inside a deep-sea research facility. Outside, a powerful storm was raging, and everyone witnessed the terrifying force of nature for the first time. Meanwhile, the injured scientist was losing a dangerous amount of blood, and his condition was rapidly getting worse. Because of the bad weather, the helicopter couldn't land, so they had no choice but to transport him to the medical team using a steel cable. After that, everyone started moving toward the base because they feared that the enormous waves could become deadly at any moment. Fortunately, the rest of the team reached the base safely, but the scientist lying on the stretcher was still in critical condition. Suddenly, because of the terrible weather, the machine responsible for pulling them upward malfunctioned. Without any support, the scientist fell straight into the shark-infested ocean along with the cable. When everyone returned to the base, they saw something horrifying. The shark had clamped the cable between its jaws and was using it to swing the helicopter around as if it were controlling it. Within seconds, the helicopter slammed into the tower and was destroyed in a massive explosion. The blast was so powerful that fires broke out across several sections of the base. Their entire surveillance and communication system also went down. While everyone was focused on the control panel, Russell noticed something moving rapidly toward them. The next moment, he realized that the same shark was swimming toward the glass wall with their injured teammate clamped in its jaws. When it reached the wall, the shark slammed the man against the glass with tremendous force. Cracks immediately appeared across the glass. Seeing their dying teammate and the shattered glass made everyone even more terrified. They were just about to move away when another disaster struck. Seawater smashed through the glass and began flooding the laboratory. As the freezing water continued rising, everyone became increasingly terrified. To save themselves, they rushed through a secret gate. The pressure of the water was so strong that closing the gate was almost impossible, but using all their strength, they somehow managed to lock it. For the moment, they were safe. But now they had an even bigger problem. After the massive explosion and the flooding of the laboratory, how were they going to escape from this deep-sea research base? The only staircase leading upward had disappeared beneath the water, and nobody knew whether a giant shark was waiting on the other side of the door. Desperate, everyone ran toward the maintenance tunnel while the floodwater continued chasing them from behind. Fortunately, they managed to open the main gate at the right moment, clearing at least one escape route. But the chef on the upper floor wasn't so lucky. A dangerous smaller shark was silently following him. When he realized it, his face turned pale with fear. He ran for his life without looking back and eventually made it into the kitchen. For the moment, he was safe. But he wasn't willing to take any chances. He picked up a pen lying nearby and waited until he saw the shark turn in another direction. Only then did he finally breathe a sigh of relief. However, he couldn't stay there for long, so he began climbing onto a shelf. He had no idea that the shark was already very close. Just as he was about to reach the top, his pet parrot suddenly appeared in front of him. The chef panicked, his hand slipped, and he fell back down. Still, he didn't give up. He wanted to take his parrot with him. He reached out his hand and called the bird toward him. But the situation suddenly became even worse. The shark slammed into the shelf, sending the chef crashing into the water. At that life-threatening moment, he spotted an oven nearby. He quickly swam toward it and climbed inside just before the shark could reach him. But the danger wasn't over. The shark's impact accidentally turned the oven on, causing flammable gas to spread around inside. Desperate to escape, the chef started hacking at the top of the oven with an axe. As soon as he created a hole, he climbed onto the top and jumped directly behind the shark. Hearing the noise, the shark immediately turned toward him. The chef then pulled out a lighter and threw it toward the oven. The next moment, a massive explosion occurred, killing the shark instantly. Although the explosion had eliminated one shark, a major question remained in everyone's minds. How could an ordinary sea creature have developed such intelligence to attack humans? And why had it used its victim as a weapon to break the glass? That's when Dr. Susan finally revealed the truth. To extract the protein, they had injected an illegal chemical into the shark's brain. The chemical caused its brain to grow abnormally large, increasing its intelligence several times over. But there was also a dangerous side effect. The sharks had become much smarter and stronger than before. Everyone was shocked and helpless, but they still had to find a way out. They planned to escape using a submarine, but then they discovered that the smaller shark had already destroyed it. Now they had only two options. They could either swim to the platform on the first floor and then try to use the elevator to reach the surface. But one small mistake along the way would mean certain death. Both options were extremely dangerous, and the pressure caused the team members to start arguing with each other. Then Russell suggested diving out through the flooded area. But apparently, the shark didn't like that idea. Suddenly, it jumped out of the water, grabbed Russell in its jaws, and dragged him deep into the ocean. Everyone was left completely stunned. It seemed the shark had already eliminated their diving escape option. With no other choice, they opened the front gate, hoping it would lead them upward. But within seconds, the air pressure caused seawater to rush into the elevator shaft. Two team members risked their lives and somehow managed to close the door. But another problem was waiting for them. An explosion in the elevator area had started a fire, and equipment stored nearby was also exploding. Meanwhile, the shark continued slamming into the door. Seeing the situation getting worse, Carter decided that his teammates should move ahead while he took the risk of opening the hatch on floor -1 to control the water level. His decision worked. He opened the hatch and managed to avoid another attack from the shark at the last second. But then things went wrong again. Because of a loose screw, part of the staircase broke off and fell downward. Fortunately, the staircase became stuck on the other side. However, one team member lost her balance and fell directly into the water. Carter immediately tried to save her, but he was 1 second too late. Right in front of everyone, the shark attacked the woman. Carter gave everything he had to save her, but the shark dragged her deep into the ocean in an instant. Eventually, she disappeared into the freezing water. Once again, everyone was left in deep shock. The worst part was that they were still far from the top floor. They could hear powerful impacts against the doors above them. It seemed that the shark had already reached the upper level. Fear was clearly visible on everyone's faces. Just then, the chef arrived. He immediately threw a rope made from clothing and pulled them up before they could drown. Now everyone moved forward as quickly as possible. Ahead of them was a pump system that could be activated using a generator to drain the water. The team rushed into the control room and somehow managed to start the generator. But just as they were about to escape, things went wrong again. The shark suddenly attacked from behind. It brutally tore apart Carter's friend. Seeing this, Carter immediately swam toward the main gate. But before the shark could attack him as well, the gate opened. At the same moment, the chef also arrived. With everyone's lives at stake, Susan made another major mistake. She believed that all their hard work and sacrifices couldn't be wasted. So she went alone to her room to retrieve the research data. She unlocked the locker with a key and, after searching for a while, managed to retrieve the important samples. But she didn't notice a shark swimming toward her from behind. Fortunately, the first one turned out to be only a research model. But the next moment, something else emerged from the water. This time, it wasn't a fake model. It was a real shark. It immediately attacked Susan. There was nowhere for her to run. She climbed onto a shelf and tried to steady herself. In the panic, her valuable research files fell into the water. She stopped for 2 seconds and leaned down to retrieve them. That's when the shark began moving toward her again. Death was closing in. Then she noticed a light bulb above her, and a dangerous idea came to her mind. She realized that a high-voltage electric current might be able to kill the shark. She quickly pulled out a wire and waited for the shark's next attack. As soon as the shark lunged at her, she shoved the electrified wire directly into its mouth. After several violent electric shocks, the second shark finally died. Looking at the research data that had sunk into the water, Susan regretted everything. She finally realized that releasing the shark in the first place had been her biggest mistake. But there was no time to think about it now. The 3 survivors eventually came face to face again. However, the shark's attack ruined Carter and Susan's direct escape plan. Now they had only one option left, the emergency exit. but opening the door would cause water to rush inside, so they prepared a fire extinguisher to help balance the pressure. They deliberately allowed the room to fill with water. When the water reached above their heads, they opened the hatch. As soon as they escaped, all three activated the fire extinguishers. The bubbles confused the shark, and their trick worked. The three finally reached the surface. But then another attack happened. The shark suddenly grabbed the chef and dragged him several meters away. Even then, the chef refused to give up. He pulled out the cross hanging around his neck and repeatedly struck the shark in the eyes with all his strength. Eventually, he managed to escape death once again. Carter and Susan were shocked to see him alive. Carter jumped back into the water, while the chef somehow climbed onto the wreckage. Susan bandaged his injury, which temporarily stopped the dangerous bleeding. Looking at the wreckage scattered everywhere, they finally understood an important truth. Earlier, the strong walls below had kept the shark trapped inside, but now the entire structure was slowly sinking, and only a thin iron framework remained above the water. That meant the shark wasn't simply trying to kill the humans. It wanted to escape this human-made cage and reach the open ocean. They had to kill it. You finally said something that makes sense. They immediately took action. They removed the explosive powder from all the signal flares and loaded it into a harpoon. The plan was simple. Once the harpoon hit the shark, they would connect its wire to a battery and use a massive electric current to kill it. But at that exact moment, the shark was completely focused on breaking through the door. It didn't give Carter a chance to aim properly. When the shark refused to come to the surface, Susan cut her palm with a sharp piece of debris from a broken machine and jumped directly into the water. She was using herself as bait. She had been the one who broke the rules in the first place. She had injected the chemical into the shark's brain, and she had released it back into the ocean. She believed that since the mistake was hers, she had to be the one to end it. As soon as the shark smelled her blood, it stopped attacking the door and turned toward her. But the intelligent shark refused to come fully to the surface. Carter realized that Susan's plan wasn't working. He immediately jumped into the water to save her. And then something happened that nobody had the courage to watch. The shark brutally tore Susan apart. Carter could only watch helplessly. After smelling the blood, the shark turned its attention toward Carter and began swimming toward him. When it attacked, Carter didn't panic. Using his fast swimming skills, he dodged the attack. Then, when he got the chance, he grabbed the shark's fin and pushed himself away. At that moment, the chef took control again. He grabbed the harpoon gun and prepared himself. He aimed the harpoon at the shark's fin. As soon as he got the perfect opportunity, he fired. But he made a terrible mistake. The harpoon pierced through the shark's fin and went straight through Carter's leg. The wire began pulling rapidly. If Carter couldn't separate himself from the shark in time, the moment the chef connected the wire to the battery, the resulting explosion would kill Carter along with the shark. But escaping wasn't easy. The shark was about to break through the metal framework and escape from the base. At the last moment, Carter grabbed the net and managed to separate himself from the shark's fin. At that exact moment, the chef connected the wire to the battery. The next second, a massive explosion occurred. The blast was so powerful that the shark was killed instantly. When the chef saw that Carter was still alive, a smile finally returned to his blackened face. And that's how, after sacrificing many of their teammates, they finally ended the shark's reign of terror. And with that, this incredible movie comes to an end. So, what did you think of this explanation? If you enjoyed it, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel.